Hi friends, welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and this is a video about the Pioneer system from TSPROF in its most basic configuration, and I'm going to be sharpening a knife from start to finish. First off, let me show you this knife is not sharp. I can make it rip a little bit. It's just I was pulling hard enough, I ripped that off there instead of, if I try really hard, it's got a little bit of sharpness to it, but it's too dull for use. And I'm going to show you how quickly you can sharpen it just using the stuff from TSPROF from the basic package. It comes with the diamond stones. This is the 150, and I've set this up ahead of time. And I set this to 20 degrees. Now you don't get a digital angle finder or anything with it. You can use just a basic digital angle finder, or of course you can check out the T2 from TSPROF and use the AxiCube TA2, whatever you want. There you go. These diamond stones, I tend to use them with soapy water, but they recommend using honing oil. And so I've got some cheap honing oil. Just put a few drops on there like that. Not a big deal. I'm going to use my pinky just to make sure that those drops don't run all the way off. And grab myself a blue shop towel. Dry my hands off a little bit. And then I get started. Now, from one end to the other, one little trick to do is don't overlap the end by more than 1/3 of the stone, because then you're going to start rounding by accident. Now, of course, you're not pushing down on the stone anyways. You have to put a tiniest little bit of weight to keep it consistent. But otherwise, you just start the heel or the tip, whatever. And I know it's loud. Try not to spend any more time on one spot than the other. There's a tiniest bit of a burr forming there. Now, of course, if you can afford it, one of the best things to get right away is the length extender for the rods here. Now, I'm sharpening a Tanto, a Western Tanto knife, and I'll show you about that too. Yeah, a tiny bit of a burr there, so let's park that, flip it over, and do the other side. And so this should be a real-time video without cuts. Yeah, the burr is just a tiny bit on the other side. And you don't need to go through all the grits. If you want to go through more grits, go ahead. But I'm going to jump straight from this 150 to this 600. Now, this knife is pretty cheap steel. What did they say? It's 7CR17, like that's around 440A, something like that. I don't remember. It might be 420J2. I don't remember. It's a cheap steel that doesn't take an awful lot. And so the edge isn't going to last terribly long on it anyway. So I'm not going to be concerning myself with making it perfect anyway. Oh, that's more oil than it needed, but it's on there. So there you go. And I just sharpened this side. Now I could go back to the other side and do that side first, but doing this side again is fine, because I'm going to do each side with the same grits for roughly the same amount of time. And no, I don't have to knock off the burr first. I do at the end. I need to make sure the burr is gone on the final one. And if I was doing higher end knives, I'd make sure I got rid of the burr each time. But if you're just sharpening for yourself for knives that you're going to be using, especially using hard, it's not that big a deal. You can see that, yeah, you can see it right there in the picture. That's metal. That black stuff is metal. So it's going quite well here. And that's all that takes. Yep, nice little bit of a burr there. Wipe my fingers off. Park that guy. Flip it back. And let's do this side. Now, that little bit of a burr, since this is my final time, I'm going to rub it up. Just take that tiny bit of a burr off. There we go. And spend approximately the same amount of time on this side. Okay, there's the tiniest bit of a burr there. So let me just go up, flip over. You can feel it when it's coming off. Just take it off. And I could have parked it, but flip it over. That's wonderful. Now, see, without the extender, I can't use the entire length of the stone if my blade's coming out this far. Not a big deal. I'm just going to wipe off. Well, actually, I shouldn't wipe all that oil off because I'm going to use that stone again. Put it back there. And if I had a regular knife with just one secondary bevel, oh, by the way, I don't understand why they call it a secondary bevel. That's the most important bevel. That should be the primary bevel, that should be the secondary bevel. But that's not how it is in the industry. In the industry, this is the primary bevel, and the sharpening one is called the secondary bevel. And that feels good. Now, I haven't stropped it or anything. I'm just going to push straight in and see how that does. While it caught it, just do it on a slight bit of an angle. Yep, that's cutting a whole lot better than it did before. Pretty much a push cut, not much of a slide at all. And once I've stropped that, that's going to be even better. If you haven't seen my video on how to sharpen a Tanto, let me just add this little bit on here. Notice I just did that main bevel on the long edge. Now, one thing I do if I'm doing a Tanto, and this is just a little bit extra, I took something, just anything, and that apex is just a little ways, tiny ways back on that piece of wood. So measured from the front of the clamp. And this way I don't have to, my fingers just don't work that well. My nerves are starting to not function. I've got a lot of nerve issues around my body. And to go along with the arthritis, it's a pain in the butt sometimes, but I already loosened that. That's why that's free. So I can't always feel things as well as I'd like to. But to do this Tanto, I'm going to put both of these clamps on the same side. Actually, I didn't need to loosen that one up, did I? I could have just left that one tight the way it was. Now, what's rubbing is those two knobs. They're rubbing a little bit. See, there's a little bit of a space there. No big deal. That's just fine. And, okay, it's a little too tight for that. Okay, now that's off to the side, but that's not a big deal because when you go to put this tip on, the knife is going to be this way, and that's bringing it closer to the middle. Now, I'm going to use this one first. Now, I'm not tightening it up super tight, just a little bit to start with. Then I'm going to move it back down. I want to see that this edge is mostly parallel with the bar. And it's pretty close. I can move it the tiniest bit and then tighten that down. But wait, there's more. I'm going to check this as well. I'm way forward. I got to move that back. So that's going to have to be moved back. Now, if I had a screwdriver with this head on it, it'd be that much easier, but I don't. Now, this doesn't work if you don't have a flat edge on the side of your blade. as easily. You got to do other fancy things to get that flat edge just right. But anyhow, snug that up. Doesn't have to be stupid tight, just snug. And just re-verify. Yep, that's nice. And put the coarse stone back in there. Might use a little bit more oil on here on this end. Actually, I'm going to turn that around so I wear this stone more evenly, because I didn't use this end very much. There we go. And wipe my fingers off so my wife doesn't complain about the oil on my fingers. And sharpen. Same thing, make sure you don't go too far over. Let me show you this way. It might show up on the camera a little bit better. There's the midline roughly of the stone where that bar is. So I generally cut that in about half. And so the tip of that blade can only go in that half. So a little over 1/8 of an inch past that tip is where I want to go with my stone. Same thing over on the heel, or else I'm going to round that over. Unless I want to round that over, but I don't want to. Certainly not on the tip. There we go. And back to that side and do the same thing here. Or use the other hand when your shoulder gets tired. Now this bevel thickness here, it's more narrow there on the bottom than it is on the top. That's simply to do with the thickness of the blade stock. That's not a problem with the system at all. So especially on cheap knives, that's just the way it goes. Or when you get closer to the spine, most knives get thicker. You know, you got the thinness of the main bevel and it goes up to the spine of the blade and it's thicker there. So that's why that bevel's wider. But on this edge, you should have very much the same thickness this way of the bevel along there. But now, just for fun, let's give this a try. I'm going to knock back the bevel. Just lightly. Let's park that over there. Let's wipe it off. Of course, wiping towards myself. And just with that 150 grit, let's see how sharp this is. That's a lot better than it was. But let's grab that 600 grit stone. It's over here. And let's do it a little bit with a 600 grit. And this is no editing in here. At least I'm going to try not to do any editing in this video. I'll confirm on the bottom of the screen if I did or not. Of course, you'll just have to trust me, I guess. All right. There we go. Park that. Wipe my hands off. Wipe the blade. And again, it'll do even better after I've done some stropping on it. Look at that. It just cuts. And of course, I could make that edge even nicer by going, you know, it's got the 1000 grit stone in there as well, which is quite a bit sharper than, or finer than, the 600 grit. 400 grit sharper, right? So that's all it takes, and then you're done. You can, if you've got a stropping stone, a stone for stropping, you can strop on here as well with your fixed angle, or you can do a hand strop, whatever you want. It doesn't take an awful lot to get that all done the way you want. You take your knife back out. So you don't need the fanciest of stuff. Now, when this video gets posted, the Thanksgiving sales, the Black Friday sales and stuff will be over, but you can still get a discount if you want to get one of these from TSPROF using my link, and that'll get you a discount, and you can save yourself some money. So even cheap knives can, you know, get a pretty good treatment. Just even listening to that, not bad. And the tip edge, not bad. I didn't do the tip quite as well as I had hoped. Not as well as the main edge, but that is pretty sharp indeed. And that's how you can sharpen with the Pioneer without spending an awful lot of money. And of course, you can get all those add-ons that I recommend as well if you want to. So thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, cut toward your chum, not your thumb.